Namaskar. Hello everyone. I'm Samir Sathe. I'm son of late Pandit Sharad Sathe, my dear Baba. Today is 17th April 2020. Exactly a year ago, he expired. Today I'm going to talk about a very good initiative that we have undertaken. We are launching this YouTube channel to bring to you his tremendous treasure trove of the music in the live performances that he delivered in the last 50 to 60 years before his death. We have assembled over 150 different tracks of his recordings over the last 50 to 60 years to ensure that his music is preserved, is archived, reaches to the masses, something that he never did in his own life. I'm going to talk about what characteristics are important when we listen to his music. What are the salient features that one must remember when one listens to his music? As we all know, Baba belonged to Gwalior tradition. But when Baba thought about music, he thought about music as a prayer. He thought about music as the expression of his artistic virtuoso. He thought about music as a vehicle to express his tremendous aesthetic sense that reflected in every single raga, every single bandish that he sang. He was one of the few people who really picked up whatever his guru taught him in an instant. Many of his friends used to call him sponge, just exactly how the sponge would really absorb all the water. He was exactly like that. So with his clear, flexible voice, genuine, honest delivery and rendering of whatever he sang through that voice, his straightforwardness, his piety was really, really one of the most important characteristics. So that was the first one. The second, which is very important, is that his music clearly showed and demonstrated his disciplined practice over 6 decades. That made him seem like a youngster in his mid-80s. I remember some of his concerts in the period between 2011 and 2010 and 2019, even last year until he expired. One would really be awestruck at the sheer mastery over his voice. He could really move in all 3 octaves, the Mandra Saptak, the Madhya Saptak, the Tar Saptak, absolutely with ease. He was one of the very rare masters of Gwalior Gaiki who could sing like a youngster even in his 80s. Very few have been able to do that. His voice was steady at any swara that he would deliver. That was fantastic, and that really showed the disciplined practice that he did over the last 6 decades. In his music, when you listen to some of his bandishes, you will clearly spot his ability to actually view this music with some sense of architectural, structured beauty. In the way he developed a bandish, a composition, the way he actually sang, the way he treated each composition and bandish. And he would probably imagine that bandish like a sketch on paper. And that has something to do with his probably background when he did at JJ School of Arts, the commercial diploma. And that really gave him an ability to think of music through visual medium. And that's very rare. And therefore, when you think about his music and when you listen to his raga development or bandish development, you will clearly sense that it has this architectural beauty. It looks like a landscape. It looks like a beautiful sketch on paper. And I think he mastered that brilliantly. He was also a fantastic calligrapher. And some of his development of bandishes and ragas really resemble some of the flourishes that he has and the strokes of the letters that he drew with his calligraphic talent. The fourth key feature I would say is his spontaneous creativity and upas. That was par excellence. I think one of the things that he really focused on was creativity was supreme to him. Aesthetics was supreme to him. While he mastered the grammar of a raga and a composition, he always gave tremendous importance to on-the-spot creativity, the upas. And that really came from his arduous practice, of course. But beyond that, when the artist sits before the audience, the artist goes inward and starts developing a particular bandage to convey the message, the meaning of that bandage to the audience in the ways that are truly, truly original. And that's something that he did extremely well. And I would say this is something that he got from really all his gurus, but he developed beyond what he learned from his gurus. His artistic virtuosity, his spontaneous creativity was purely the result of his original ability to do that upas beyond what he was trained in. The elongation of the vowel, the phrases that he accentuated, actually truly conveyed the meaning of bandage. You will realize that when you listen to some of his favorite ragas like Yaman, Todi, Bhairav, Bihag. There are many such Purvi, Shri, and you will realize this Siddha ragas when you listen to the recordings that he really, you can see him really with his spontaneous creativity. That was par excellence. In the early years of life, I would say his style was very akin to D.V. Paluskar's style, his first guru, where he had tremendous respect for, whom he had tremendous respect for. That really rendered the accentuating the swara, raga, tala. In later years, he of course matured to rendering the original Gwalior stream, as he called it, with a very strong emphasis on diction, phrasing, development of bandish, interwoven with theka and essaying the essence of the raga. And that's something that he picked up from Arulkar Bua, his third guru, who belonged to the tradition of the original Gwalior Gaiki that was imbibed from the Pandit Gharana and of course the Mule, Eknathji Mule, whom Arulkar Bua learned from. When D.V. Paluskar ji initiated him into classical music, I think that really gave Baba the performance practice and etiquettes, how to perform, what is the presentation that one must remember of when one renders a classical music performance. Paluskar ji gave him the nuances of raga. Arulkar Bua made his music mature, evolved and subtle, and in between, Devdar Master really gave him the grammar of raga, initiated him into the intricacies of the grammar of raga. So if you look at it, all his three gurus contributed to him in several ways. And these were the three key contributions of his three gurus. I think Baba, if I remember the conversations with Baba, and he used to often say that initially he imbibed the best from each stalwart musicians, not only from Gwalior but also from others. From Gwalior, he was originally inclined to a robust and masculine gaiki of the maestros like Krishna or Shankar Pandit. And then when he started learning from Arulkar Bua, it opened to him the world of a vast world of a subtler, more aesthetic and gentle treatment by Arulkar ji. His most mature and evolved music, especially in khayals, bada khayals and chota khayals, was largely due to Arulkar Bua. The same bandish, if you listen to his old recordings in 1960s and 70s, to the latter years when he learned the same bandish from Arulkar Bua, you will clearly sense the difference. Take an example of Jab Se Tum Sanandaki. In Bhoop, he would sing differently when he learned from D.V. Paluskar ji, and later on he understood the aesthetics in rendering the same bandish from Arulkar ji. So his music actually had a great journey, great evolution, great maturity. And I think that one of the biggest hallmarks of Baba was, although he himself was a maestro, he never stopped learning till the last day. And that's a mark of a true great musician. He always believed that whatever the musician's caliber is, one must be humble. And he really stood for that quality. In early years, he also had impressions on his music from Fayaz Khan Sahib, Vilayat Hussain Khan Sahib, Azmat Hussain Khan Sahib, Kesar Bhai, Amir Khan Sahib, Gajan Bua Joshi ji, Ram Bua Marathe ji, Jagannath Bua Purohit, Vazir Bua, Bade Gulam Ali ji, Master Krishna. I mean, there are several such musicians that made certain impressions in his music. And you could trace some of those patterns in some of his music in 60s, 70s, 80s, and that he really imbibed that tremendously well and I mean, he really meshed it so well with his original artistic virtuoso. His Tana patterns were largely drawn from Gwalior, obviously because he learned most of his bandishes from the Gwalior gurus, but he also imbibed very interesting patterns from Jaipur and Agra Gharanas. In his college days, because he was fan of Fayaz Khan Sahib, he really imbibed the true rendering of Agra Gharana style of Noam Tom, and he used to relish it. As his music evolved in Gwalior Gaiki, you would see that his patterns of music definitely changed. Some of these impressions that got formed in early years, you will also observe in the latter years of his life whenever he wished that he wanted to render. Uh, the other most important thing is his repertoire and treasure trove of original and authentic compositions. Baba may have learned practically hundreds of bandishes from all these gurus, but he was truly a practitioner in a sense that he never believed in collecting for the sake of collecting different bandishes. He truly gave a very proper treatment to every single bandish that he sang. And he always believed that unless you're confident, unless you're sure that a particular bandish is something which is not completely mastered, do not venture into singing. But that didn't prevent him from experimenting. And that's something which is unique about Baba. He always believed that the true mark of an artist is experimentation. And this is something that even scientists today tell us, that experiment, you could fail, but the failure teaches you how to improve. And that is something that Baba truly did when he learned music and when he rendered music. The sawal jawab that used to happen between him and the audiences really gave him tremendous encouragement and tremendous sort of response. And that really pepped him to deliver some of his best renderings in terms of the raga and bandishes. And that was truly fantastic. The other characteristic is that he preferred to sing Siddha ragas and original compositions. You will never find Baba singing something which is very, something which is created in the later years, something which is created in 80s, 90s, and 2000s. You would always find him singing really paramparik bandishes because he believed, and the Siddha ragas are called Siddha because in those ragas, when you sing them, you don't have to remember the grammar while you sing them. You sing them and it comes so naturally. And that's the true mark of Siddha raga, something that you have really attained, that kind of stature, that kind of position. And that truly reflected in the way he sang, the kind of bandishes that he sang, the kind of ragas that he sang. Baba was versatile in rendering all forms of classical music. He had tremendous mastery over badakhals and tapas that was unmatched, unfathomable. He was one of the few stalwarts who really stood for what is it to sing a badakhal in a manner that is so well structured, so well delivered, and yet it is not dry, it's not technical when it sounds to an ear. When one is listening to his music, he was fantastic. He was truly master of badakhals and tapa. He had developed his own signature of music due to principally because of his originality and creativity. That was very, very important. Of course, he had Ashtanga Pradhan Gaiki with the focus on Meen, Gamak, Behlava. Especially in the latter years, you will notice that his music had a lot of fantastic malleability. Even in the latter years of his life, he could actually convey expressions and emotions so beautifully. And then he went into something like Samadhi like when he used to sing those compositions in raga, and Meen really conveyed the true expression that he wanted to convey. So he used a lot of those tools in his ragas and his renderings of compositions. I would say, like Arul Kabau used to say, and then he truly imbibed it, I remember having discussions with him, is that there are basically three dimensions in Gwalior Gaiki, right? Arul Kabau used to say this. You have Akshar, Shabda, Kavita, that really the composer has kind of composed a particular Kavita or a bandish to convey some message. So that's one dimension. The second dimension is that of raga. So you have swara, you have dhun, that's a melody, and then it becomes a raga when you give certain grammar to it. And it's an evolution, right? You have akshar, shabda, kavita, you have really swar, that becomes a dhun when you do it spontaneously, and then it becomes a raga, and when you see the character of that raga. And the third dimension, of course, which is equally important, which Baba truly mastered, like his Guru Arul Kapua, was the tala. And that something that he really, really mastered. So you have tala, and the evolution of tala goes like you have matra, tal, and theka. And these are the three stages. So when you have the third stage of each one, which is basically raga, kavita, and theka, the third stage of each of these dimensions, truly when you make them all together in a nice, nice concoction, and then you deliver it with absolutely stunning creativity, that was Baba's music. And his music really stood for that kind of combination that I talked about. In Gwalior Gaiki, the maximum importance is given to Bandish. Because truly, the Kavita, when you use the vehicles of Tala and Raga, and you deliver that Kavita in a manner that conveys the true message of what the composer is trying to say, is exactly what Baba did. He gave justice to what the composer was trying to convey as a message to the audiences. I would say, I mean, at this point of time, when I look back and when you look at his music, he was fantastic. You will witness this when you listen to some of his music. When we bring to you, what we plan to do is to really bring out to you series of these compositions that I talked about with certain time intervals. So today you have few, after a few days, there will be few more uploads that will happen of his music. I'm pretty sure that you will thoroughly not only enjoy it, but for those who are learned, it's a clear validation what his true position in the Indian classical vocal music was. It was unmatched. And as a student, you will know what is it that one must do for sure when one is delivering performances. He truly was a brilliant, 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 not only the performer, but in his own ways, a fantastic teacher. And some of my friends who learned, who had the opportunity to learn from Baba, will truly stand testimony to this. Frankly, his music was truly characterized by technical excellence and aesthetic brilliance. There are no other words. At this point of time, when I think of Baba, I'm trying to not to become emotional because we are trying to celebrate his music. I really, really hope that you do enjoy listening to his music, understand his music, and please share to all the people whom you think are true lovers of Indian classical vocal music. And when you think of Baba, when you listen to these bandishes, you will discover that it's an ocean, it's a sky, it has no end, it's limitless. And that's something that Baba used to always say. With these small words, I hope that I have kind of captured the essence of his music and his raga and his bandishes. And I do hope that you will really benefit from this repertoire of the bandishes that we are trying to bring to you. Thank you.